YouTube Isaac going the Goat House is back after week 14 of the NFL, recapping Thursday and the Sunday games mainly here. A lot of good games and a lot of expected for me at least. You know, the NFL is kind of starting to unfold. A lot of things make sense to me. You know, a lot of things are starting to make sense. Whether it's my thoughts before this week or even before the year. You know, a lot of things are making sense, starting to unfold the way I thought it would. I may have some I told you so's in here when we go through some of these games. I'm mainly going to focus on the games that had a lot of meaning behind them, you know, with the implications. You know, games that didn't mean much, we're going to zip through real quick. But a bit to go over. A very exciting week here in week 14. Extra content on our Patreon, patreon.com/GoDows. Playoff predictions, score predictions, mock drafts, all of that updated every single week, part of one package deal. You get plenty more as well. I will be doing an updated playoff predictions on YouTube for everybody later this week, though, so that should be a lot of fun. And then 40K, that's our subscriber goal by the end of the NFL season here, so it's going to be close. YouTube shutting down closed accounts, so we're going to lose some subscribers, so we really need your help to gain some more subscribers here to get to that 40K. Full NFL content, college football content, including the bowl games. Even in the offseason, free agency and draft, full content here. Click the like button. Check us out on Twitter at GoatHouseNFL. Link in the description. Thursday night game, let's talk about it real quick here. Mainly the Sunday recap, but the Bears dominated this game. I think the MVP of this game, and there's two MVPs that aren't getting the credit that they deserve here. I'm going to say Matt Nagy. You know, Matt Nagy struggled this year. A lot of questionable play calling. He was still trying to figure out, you know, his team's identity. You know, it was a struggle with the way Trubisky was playing. How do I call this offense? And there was some changes to the offensive line. And going from last year to this year, you know, teams starting to catch on. So how do I make slight changes to make it work? And it took a little long, but Nagy had a great game in this game. The game plan was fantastic. Threw the defense off big time. Got the ball to the right players. And I'm going to say the offensive line, though, mainly what nobody's talking about. When it's playing, you know, somewhat bad early in the year, people are make sure they rip it, but they're not giving them the credit right now. The run blocking was fantastic. Trubisky has much more time the last 4 weeks than he has, you know, the previous part of the year. I like that they switched James Daniels and Whitehair back. I was confused about that switch, that center guard swap to start this year because the offensive line played so good last year. So good move to swap that back a few weeks back. And they played an excellent game. Trubisky, love to see him running again. Great game running. I'm not going to get too hyped up on him. I know some people are getting pretty hyped. I mean, has been having some pretty good games. But we kind of got to go back and remember that it could really go back to what it was. He's still not proven throwing the ball downfield, but he's done a good job in the game plan, kind of the short game. But he played his game. Running ability was fantastic. Moving around the pocket, fantastic. Sometimes it looks still, the pocket presence is there. That's something that's there. Mechanics sometimes people, say are a little off and just accuracy in general, but pocket presence is a thing you can't really coach. I think it's there. So the Bears are a hot team. They dominated the Cowboys. I even thought some penalties went against the Bears that, were the wrong calls or missed calls, and they still dominated this game. The score won't show how easy it was for the Chicago Bears. So that was an impressive game. Let's see if they can keep rolling. They got the Packers in a tough one this week. Next game, Panthers-Falcons, a 40-20. Falcons win. I was the only one to pick the Falcons. I was surprised about that at the time. Still surprised about it. The Falcons took care of business here. And I always talk about every week, it's about how the Falcons start. They didn't necessarily start good, meaning offensively for the most part, but they didn't really start that good offensively today or in this game, but they didn't make mistakes, and they usually make the mistakes early. Matt Ryan's usually going off late. He's usually making the mistakes early. They didn't do that. The defense played good early, so that was enough. I think it was only 3 points in the first quarter, but they held them to 0, no mistakes. And then that's when they really got going. So that is the key, kind of what I've been saying all year long. And the Panthers, I thought I was wrong early in the year on their defense. I didn't think the defense was going to be anything special, solid, but nothing special. Looked like I was getting ready to say I was wrong. But then we see the majority of the season, what makes up most of the season, the second half of the season mainly, kind of what I expected. So, like I said, the NFL starting to unfold, things I'm really expecting here at this point of the season, the crunch time. And then Kyle Allen didn't play his best game. I like the Falcons got the run game going. I like that they got that game going. Calvin Ridley gets hurt, going to be out for the season. That's unfortunate. They got Zacchaeus going. Not too many implications on this game. So, it's going to be interesting to see who the Panthers coaches next year, but who's their quarterback. Are they split within the organization? Cam Newton versus Kyle Allen. I heard they kind of want to go that new school route. So with that being said, are they going to look at the draft? Like, who are they going to look for? Very interesting to see what the Panthers do in this offseason. Same with the Falcons, too. Like, what are they going to do? What's their future in terms of quarterback? I mean, I love Matt Ryan, but you got to start thinking about your future, but you also need other pieces here and there. We'll see. Ravens, Bills. Good game like we expected. I thought the Ravens controlled most of this game. I like the Bills. I've been starting to get on the Bills hype train. I like them. I still like them. It's a team that I wouldn't really want to play. I think there's a lot of good teams, but there's a few teams that just kind of like weird matchups for most teams. I think the Bills are one of those. Scary team. But for the most part here, I have good news and I have bad news. I mean, the obvious, not being the obvious. They lost the game. That's bad news, but that's not my bad news here. The good news is they played the best team in football. They played them pretty well, even though the Ravens had control most of the time. They slowed down Lamar Jackson a lot. They pretty much stopped Mark Ingram. Receivers weren't a factor. I know Mark Andrews got knocked out of the game. So that's the good news. They were able to compete with their playmakers, what makes them win the game. But the bad news is kind of the same thing there. Lamar Jackson definitely didn't play his game. Mark Ingram definitely didn't play his game. And Mark Andrews got hurt. The receivers didn't play their game. And they still lost the game, and the Ravens still had control. So that one, that's kind of tough. That hurts a little bit. You got to give credit to the Ravens defense. The Bills, Josh Allen's been getting better, but just not enough. It looks like we're going backwards here, like mid-season, maybe early to mid-season range, because they went from turning the ball over, then kind of making him a game manager, but he wasn't doing enough. Kind of went back to that route. Credit to the Ravens defense. I mean, what was he averaging? He was averaging under 4 yards per attempt, Josh Allen, that is, per throw. That can't happen. It just can't happen. I know you need another receiver in there, but it can't happen. Devin Singletary played a good game. The running game was a factor, but you still really couldn't hang on. So it's kind of back and forth. There's some good things. Like, you got things going. The running game got going. You slowed down their top-tier players, but you still didn't win. Overall, it's okay for the Bills because they'll be in the playoffs. They're a good team. This is a game that you want to have. Win or lose, it's a game you want to have. You want to gain the experience here for the playoffs, so it's a good thing. Like I said, the Bills defense played good. They stopped the guys. They stopped the guys they needed to stop to win the game. But then just that play that hurts, that Hayden Hurst big play, what was it, 61 yards? That's that was the game right there. I mean, that's kind of that moment in the game where you can't let that happen. I'm surprised the Bills let it happen. I don't know where the safeties are at on that play. I don't know what happened. That guy should not be able to get that many yards and then be able to go that far. It shouldn't happen. It just can't happen. So that one was what hurts. Like I've been saying since even before the season started, the Ravens will get better, not only on offense, which people expect, but on defense too. They will get better, and that's kind of been proven here. It's been proven the defense is getting better and better. You got young guys like Jalen Ferguson are stepping up. The defensive backs played really well. A guy like Chuck Clark's got to step up. Tony Jefferson is a very good safety, a key part of that defense. He's out for the season, kind of a while back here. Chuck Clark's got to step up. He stepped up. He's been pretty darn good for them. Earl Thomas has been, inconsistent to me, but overall good. He played a good game in this one. Marcus Peters has been clutch, obviously. He made the clutch play at the end. The Bills actually had a shot. Both these teams are very good. The Ravens are the best team in football. Like I said, there's good and bad things for the Bills here. I think it helps them in the long run, though, like I said. So, yeah, entertaining game, I guess, even though Ravens did have control, but a good game. Bengals, Browns, let's just zip through this one real quick. Let's talk about the Bengals side. Things that I like, I guess. Joe Mixon ran very, very well. The guy's talented, and that won't be a takeaway from this season. It actually might be the opposite. Some people may look at the stats and look how the Bengals did, and they may say, okay, Joe Mixon maybe not as good as I think, and that would be wrong. Very, very talented. Offensive line's been rough. The team's been rough this year. The guy's extremely talented. Good to see him have a good game. Dalton didn't play obviously as good as last week. Could have been a little more from him. Didn't play, one of his worst games though. And then looking at the defense, Jesse Bates has got, he knows where to be to make a play, and that's what I like about Jesse Bates. He knows where to find the ball, where the ball's going to be. So that's what I like. I like that Jermaine Pratt's playing more and more. We kind of saw him get some more reps halfway through the season. He's playing more and more each week. I thought he was flying around. I thought he was more of a factor than maybe the box score will show. I'm sure he racked up the tackles though. Didn't really look at the box score. I'm not really a fan of doing that, but I thought he was everywhere. And I like Jermaine Pratt. I think he's their future, number one linebacker. He's today's NFL's linebacker. He's a weapon linebacker. So I like to see he's moving around and playing more. So that's kind of the good from the Bengals. The Browns, Baker played a pretty bad game here. Whether he's still hurt or not, he possibly could be. I don't think he's 100%, honestly, but did not play a good game. And it's weird kind of comparing the game he played and looking at the weapons. Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb went off. Kareem Hunt was dominant too, mainly, mixing the pass and run game together, mainly the pass game. Those guys went off, and you look at Baker, what he did, not so hot. So it's a little weird. The Browns have the playmakers to be better. They had the playmakers to pick up the slack of their quarterback, which is kind of rare. But I guess that's how good the playmakers are, and which kind of makes it a little more disappointing on where their season is at. So that's tough. But they get the win here, a game they should win. Moving on. The Packers and the Redskins, I felt like it was almost a repeat. You won't see that from the scoreline here, but I thought it was a repeat of last week against the Giants. It's just the Packers are making these big plays downfield. They're making these huge plays. Here and there, Aaron Jones making a huge play. But they're just not putting points up on the board, or sometimes it's a field goal rather than a touchdown. They're just not steadily moving the ball across, midfield, into the red zone, into the end zone. They're not doing that. It's big plays. It's not super concerning because it's a kind of a game that you can run the clock a bit. You didn't have to do a whole bunch, so it's not super concerning, but it was kind of a repeat. Giants and Redskins, you kind of expect a little more from the Packers offense. I like Aaron Jones. I like the Packers offense a lot still. I know there's been some hiccups, some concerns, but you kind of just expect a little more. You get these big plays, wish they can steadily push the ball in the end zone. I think their only chance for that is Aaron Jones kind of driving, or the running back duo kind of driving down the field. So that, I guess, is a little concerning, when going up against a team like the Bears this week. I know a team that's getting hot and they have a good defense. So, but even though it was, what was the score? 17-9. Yeah, 17-9 for a bit. So the Redskins were still in it. Even though that was the case, I wasn't really concerned. I'm sure like Packers or whoever was watching the game wasn't really worried about the Packers losing the game. But it's got to be, it's hard for me to speak for Packers fans, but it's got to be a little annoying maybe that the offense just can't get the ball, move it steadily, like I said, or just punch it in the end zone. You wish you can do it a little more. But yeah, the score will show up maybe a little closer than it was, but it was 17-9 for quite a bit. The Redskins, the defense played a pretty good game. Haskins had his terrible moments, and he had some throws that were pretty impressive. The guy was obviously hurt though. And I'm confused on why they didn't take him out of the game. I thought Keenum was going to go in. And they actually, I still think the Packers would have won. But they actually had a chance to win the game if Keenum came in. So I don't know what that was about. Haskins is clearly hurt. I don't know why you jeopardized that. So that was confusing to me. Packers got a big game against the Bears this week. Looking forward to that one. A lot of playoff implications on the line there. Lions, Vikings, speaking of the NFC North. Boring game. Really boring game. Vikings win 20-7. This is kind of the part, as a Vikings fan, that I hate about the Vikings, as they are the quickest team to shut a game down in the NFL. Meaning, they're up 17-0. It's all right. We're running the ball on first, second, third down. We're gonna take Cook out, which is kind of smart, but we're gonna run the ball even to Mike Boone, the fourth string running back. Like, they're the only team that does that at a way too early stage. It really gets to me. They think because they're playing a backup core. They should easily win, but to think that, I don't really like that. But the defense finally played a pretty good game, as they should. Defense has been heading south for the Vikings. Danielle Hunter was an absolute animal in this game right off the bat. Lions would actually start to move the ball, but Danielle Hunter or even Everson Griffin would have a big sack, so that was big for them. Kirk made some really good throws, really tight window throws, downfield accurate balls. He played a really good game, but it kind of won't show because they shut him down pretty early. The rookie, Bissy Johnson, actually played a really good game. Disappointing last week against the Seattle Seahawks. It was glaring in the Seahawks Monday night game that it was pretty much Diggs and Rudy out there. It was glaring that Thielen was out. It was glaring that they don't have enough because guys like Bissy Johnson are dropping the ball, running poor routes. Guys like Irv Smith were struggling. Pretty much everybody but Diggs and Rudy in the last week game. This week, Bissy Johnson steps up. They're getting the ball to Bissy Johnson. They're getting the ball to Tyler Conklin. Kind of showed the Vikings' attitude here. They kind of wanted to rest guys. They didn't want to show anybody anything maybe, but it's still annoying to me. Go put them away. Come on. glad the defense got a little confidence boost, but doesn't mean much against the Lions. Something about the Lions that I've noticed, well, and the Seahawks too, because the Lions traded Quandre Diggs to the Seahawks, and he's playing great for the Seahawks. And everybody's freaking out that the Lions made that trade. And look what he's doing. I understand if you say, I wish we had Quandre Diggs still, or I wish the Lions should have Quandre Diggs still, or I wish they got more for him. But the way people are acting is like if, they still had him, they would be like the Seahawks. They would be playing that good. The reason you're not, that's not the reason it's struggling. Stafford with the unfortunate injury, and the defense really isn't playing as good, but it's mainly in the trenches to me, which you expected more from. It takes more than one guy to make a tackle. That's what it seems like. But it's mainly Stafford getting hurt. That's the reason the Lions are struggling. So I don't like people talking like that. But, yeah, moving on. Niners-Saints, 48-46 Niners. I did pick the Niners. I was feeling them in this game. Did not expect this to be that type of game, though. Did not expect it one bit. I thought some defense would show up. I don't know what to make of this game. Like takeaways-wise, because the Niners, the only doubts I had from the Niners were staying healthy, which is even when I've said that, I didn't think the Niners would be this good. So credit to them. They're better than I thought they'd be. I knew they were talented, though. Always said they were talented. I just worry about the health, and that's kind of been a problem, even though guys been stepping up, and it's kind of more of a problem now after that game. It's a problem, but still a very good team and definitely a legit contender. Another thing I doubted a little bit was Jimmy Garoppolo. Will he be able to make the big plays if the defense can't stop somebody? And he did. He made those big plays. He was big time in this game. Sometimes, if I had to nitpick, hold on the ball a little too long, but still a great game. Love what I'm seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo. And even with guys going down, especially on the offensive line, guys stepping up. The Sanders-Samuel duo is just great. Deebo Samuel is a monster. Speaking of monster, George Kittle is an absolute freaking beast. But I expect the defense. I've been saying the Niners are the best defense in football, even though statistically it might be the Patriots. I'm here saying the Niners are the best defense in football. I know you played a Saints offense. I know you played Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, all those guys. Kamara really wasn't a factor, but you're giving up a lot of points, and that scares me a little bit. So I don't really know what to make of the Niners. You're giving up this many points. It scares me a little bit. The injuries scare me a little bit, but it's a big-time win. Interesting game. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but impressive win for the Niners. It is big time. This was a big game in terms of the seedings. Obviously, playoff locks. So we'll see. The Saints side, yeah, they've been a little inconsistent on both sides of the ball. It seems like one week the offense is elite, and or sometimes the defense is elite. It seems like you can't have them at the same time. Unlike early in the year where they had them at the same time, and it was damn scary. And at the halfway point, I picked them to win the Super Bowl because of that. If at that point when I made those predictions, if Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback still and Brees was out for the season, I still would have picked it just by the way they were playing on both sides of the ball. And I'm not saying now I'm completely changing my pick. I'm not saying the Saints can't win a Super Bowl. Not at all saying that. But there's a little bit of inconsistencies here because some weeks, maybe it was a Falcons thing. Maybe the offense has struggled a little bit against the Falcons because they did even when they beat the Falcons last week. But feel a little better about the offense now. Feel a lot better, actually. Kamara, I'm a little worried about because I thought they were kind of just saving for the playoffs, but he does not look right. Latavius Murray is better than him right now. It's just facts. Whether you like it or not, it's the fact, okay? Michael Thomas is a beast, obviously. Jared Cook, hopefully he's okay because he's looking great. Love to see Drew Brees getting the tight end going. Love it. Drew Brees was excellent in this game. Offensive line played a little better than I thought. I thought the Niners defense would do a little more. Defensively, they're just giving up. They're giving up things that they were not giving up in the beginning of the year. Missing tackles, some simple plays. A George Kittle play at the end, 4th and 2. They were that close to winning that game. So it's a weird game in terms of having takeaways. But two good teams here. Two teams that should go far. I guess depending on what's going on with the injuries and stuff. But within this game, I hated the officiating within this game. But people were trying to say it helped this team and it helped this team. I think it was terrible on both sides to me. There was missed pass interference calls. There was pass interference calls that I don't think should have been called. That whole punt, the fake punt. Little tricky situation because what is the guy supposed to do? Not block the gunner because his job is to block the gunner when you really don't look at the punter or passer. So I understand, I guess, the confusion or why it was a tough decision. But that has to be a penalty in my opinion. Otherwise, the blocker will, the guy in charge of blocking the gunner will do that every single time, and you will not be able to convert fake punts. So that's why it should be called. But I'm not going to, even though it was bad, it's not one of those ones that I'm going to completely freak out about. I freak out about sketchy calls, the ones that, are sketchy to me. But that one was kind of, I think the refs got confused, which you don't really blame them to get confused too much on that one. But there was a lot of even missed. I thought Michael Thomas was getting away with some offensive pass interferences on big plays too. Or there was an incomplete one that Witherspoon could have picked off. But the Niners, I think Samuel got away with an offensive pass. I mean, it was kind of a mess of a game. They were letting them score, which, I guess it was bad on the officiating side, but I guess they kind of let it go both sides, in my opinion. People will disagree, but that's what happened. But interesting game. I was watching Red Zone for the most part, and this game was on the whole time. The whole time. Didn't get to watch my Vikings on the Red Zone. No problem at all for me, but boring game over there. Just this game was on pretty much the whole time. But entertaining game. Would love to see a rematch. That game was big for the seeding, like I said. So interesting. The Dolphins and the Jets back and forth here. Jets get it done without Le'Veon Bell. But Devontae Parker comes out with a concussion. I think the Dolphins win if Devontae Parker don't come out. I picked the Jets to win this game, but I think if Devontae Parker don't come out, they can definitely win that game. Not much else going for that game. Back and forth game. Clutch field goals, at the end there for the Jets. But Brian Flores was not happy with the reversed PI. They're starting to reverse a little more PI. Now there's some coaches that kind of tested it out early, and they're like, okay, they're not reversing them. We're done. And now they're reversing them, but some of those coaches refuse to do it now, and that's kind of screwing them. It's kind of pisses me off. It's kind of 2 seasons in one. And I said that last year too. What I mean by that, last year roughing the passer was called, and it's still called a stupid amount, but it was called an insane amount last year, which changed outcomes of the games. They realized it was stupid, so they changed the rule the second half. They still called a lot of them, but not nearly as much. So they made it kind of 2 different seasons in one, which changed outcomes of games in different ways. It's the same thing going this year, and it's pass interference, and it's even more of an impact because guys are challenging maybe more now, or mainly not challenging more now because they tested it out in the beginning of the season. But they're changed. It's 2 seasons in one, and that makes wrong outcomes in wrong teams possibly in the playoffs. Fortunately, this wasn't a game where I guess that was the case, but I kind of want to prove my point there. The Colts and the Bucs. I picked the Colts in this one. I had a good day picking, and they got me mad here on this one because they had this game. They choked this one away. And this is the Colts, though, that I predicted in the beginning of the season. This is the Colts right here that I predicted at the beginning of the season. Pretty much right on. I'm right on it. But in season, I kind of believe in the Colts at some points here and there. I did always mention that I am worried about them staying consistent. But, yeah, I guess I ended up being right about these Colts. Just not enough firepower, mainly the defense. Because the defense was pretty damn terrible in the beginning of last year, first half of the season. Second half of the year, looked like a top 5 defense, and I was kind of confused how. And then because you look at it on paper, I know they have the good spots. Darius Leonard, they have the playmakers there, the big time players. Darius Leonard, man, love that guy. That guy's a beast. But I kind of predict the defense to kind of be, a reason at the stretch of the season, down the stretch of the season to, I didn't think it would play as good as the end of last season. That's kind of been the case. They played pretty solid early in the year. And then really kind of blowing it here at the end. And the offense is to blame too, and even the play calling. But when the Bucs are just one-dimensional, they have no run game, and their offense even turns it over a bunch, and a guy like Mike Evans gets hurt, Jameis Winston gets hurt, he's out for a little bit, and you're still giving up 38 points. There's a big, big problem. Big problem. The Colts look like they had this game won. It's just, they got some gifts with the turnovers. With Mike Evans, I already mentioned it. All that. Mainly Winston being out for a little bit. I think the Naheem Hines fumble, were they inside the 30, inside the 25 of the Buccaneers territory? That was, I think if he doesn't fumble, I think they win, in my opinion. Assumption, I guess, there. So that was crucial, but, they had their chances. It's a game you cannot choke away. It's I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I don't know what's going to happen with this team because you need more on defense. It's just inconsistent. You can throw downfield on this team. Not enough pass rush. And you look at the offense, obviously, when Marcus Johnson is your best receiver right now, that's a problem. T.Y. Hilton, love T.Y. Hilton, but maybe not. It's not far off. If he's 100% healthy, he's close to the same as he has been. Maybe not 100% there, but the fact that he can get hurt, it's kind of a thing now. And that being kind of your only receiver, that's kind of tough. That's kind of tough. Jacoby Brissett, I like Brissett, but does he have enough firepower? I like Marlon Mack. I like the offense line. That's the only thing good going for them. And the tight ends, offense line, running back, Darius Leonard. I like Malik Hooker still. Kenny Moore, sure, but everywhere else, solid players, some solid young players, but you definitely can and need to get better. You can't choke away games like these. It was gonna be tough anyways to catch the Texans and the Titans, but this was a must win here, and they completely choked it away, and it's tough. That's tough. The Bucs are hot, impressive. Like I said, it's impressive when you turn the ball over that much and not have a running game and you're still able to do this. So if they kind of figure the things out, which is still a bit to figure out or get in the offseason, it could be a scary team, but it's a strange situation. Broncos and Texans, I picked pretty well this week, but one game that I definitely got wrong, 38-24. It's a big win, but it won't even show how big of a win it was for the Broncos. Dominant game. Both sides, I'd say mainly the defense, even though Drew Lock, that's my guy. Drew Lock, I love Drew Lock. I actually had him like at this time last year. He was my quarterback one, and it got real close. And then the factor, what slightly gave Kyler Murray the edge. I was probably the only one that had it that close, honestly. What slightly gave Kyler Murray the edge for me was I guess two things. The way the NFL is heading with the new school offenses, and the game plan factor. Kyler Murray's a guy I don't really want a game plan for. Down the line, you can't really have assumptions right now, year one. But it was very, very close to me. Drew Lock was my number 22 player on the board, first-round player, QB2, right next to Kyler Murray. There was a gap of two. Even though I like Haskins still, so don't get me wrong. But there was a pretty big gap in between there. So I love to see Drew Lock get going. I like this Broncos team. Not a Broncos fan. I'm a huge Cortland Sutton fan. He was my 10th overall player in the draft that year. So I'm feeling good about that one. A.J. Johnson, I had a borderline first, second round grade on him. It was kind of back and forth. I kind of had an early second round grade on him. Off the field issues kind of delays his presence. And talk about a presence, Jesus. We're talking about maybe the best linebacker in football right now, folks. I mean, this guy he's a little more athletic than I remember him too. Everywhere. Him and Kareem Jackson, they played themselves in elite football. I mean, a lot of guys. The D-line played good. Todd Davis, it was guys everywhere. But, A.J. Johnson, wow. I'm excited about some of these pieces on this team. If you remember when the schedules came out, I made a video talking about the schedules. It was a long, kind of dragged on, honestly. But I determined at some point, I think towards the end, that the Broncos by far had the hardest schedule in the NFL, and I'm kind of sticking to that. And I'm going to say that among a couple other things on why their record isn't where it should be, really. They kind of got unlucky or kind of choke games here and there, but the schedule being hard didn't help. This is a good football team. I'm very excited for the future of this team. A couple things to add, but very excited for the future. You can look back. There's several games that come to my head. The Bears won, number one, and the Vikings won. Games they should have won, and if they had Drew Lock in those games, they would have won. They would have beat my Vikings if they had Drew Lock in that game, no doubt. They would not have blown a 20. I guess things could have been a little different. I guess it changes everything, but they would have won the game, and they could be a good team right now. There's more wins they could have had. So it's a good team. So it's not like the Texans just completely, they lost to a bad team or anything, but at the end of the day, it's at home. You should win if you want to be that contender. It's a game you cannot lose. And I talked about this. I've been talking about this. What Deshaun Watson's going to show up. I usually say the defense really isn't a factor. I think the Broncos played well enough to make it a factor, but Deshaun Watson's kind of on his, it's kind of him. Is the elite Deshaun Watson going to show up, or, bad to below average, whatever it is, and he didn't start off good in this game. And there was not much going. The Broncos were making the plays. The Texans were not. But at the same time, the Broncos didn't really. Cortland Sutton's a beast. He didn't really do anything in this game, though. Phillip Lindsay didn't do a whole bunch in this game. It was just Drew Lock, Noah Fant, some guys stepping out. It's good to see him coming along. In defense making plays. it couldn't even be better. It couldn't even be better for the Broncos. So Texans, man. It seems like every time I move them up higher in the power rankings, which they have to go higher based on what they're playing, and I say it, I've been saying it every week in the power rankings, it just seems like they fall down then. And it's hard to trust this team. And I've been saying it during the year. I don't know if this team can. I know they're a playoff team. I definitely know that. Deshaun Watson, love me some Deshaun Watson. Love me DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, which they missed Will Fuller in this game, but that wasn't why they lost. Love the inside linebacker duo. Love the young defensive backs. Well, I should say I like the young defensive backs. Don't love them, but I kind of doubt them winning in the playoffs. And games like this, which they have like every 3 weeks or so, it doesn't really matter who they play. They kind of have these, kind of prove that point. Like this team can't and will not stay consistent throughout the playoffs. They can definitely win a playoff game. I start to doubt that, but it's not. They're not ready yet. They cannot stay consistent enough. This can happen at any time, the least expected time, and they're going to play better teams in the playoffs. Even though the Broncos are better in the record, they're going to play better teams. So they started to come back a little bit, so I guess that's good, but it doesn't really show how bad they got beat in this game. So that's unfortunate, especially when a team like the Tennessee Titans are coming. We'll talk about them in a little bit. We're going to talk about the Chargers, Jags. Another one I feel good about my prediction. I kind of was locked in on the Chargers this one. It was a lot of people picked the Jags, so that maybe a lot of experts out there picked the Jags, so maybe a little concerned, but then really thinking about it, like, no, the Jags have given up. They look terrible. The coaching's terrible. And then I love looking at matchups, and even on top of all of that, the Chargers match up very, very well against the Jags. What did I say multiple times in videos last week? Who is going to be dominant? Well, I said the running back duo is going to be dominant. They're going to be MVPs. And what have I been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks? They got to get Eckler the ball more. He is their best player in offense, and that's exactly what he is. That's exactly what he is. And they still didn't give him the ball enough. And the guy went freaking nuts. I mean, the guy's ridiculous. He's today's NFL's back. He's the weapon, I should say. I truly think, even with the great, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler is their best weapon on offense, hands down to me, no question. So love to see them get him going. That was the difference, just not enough. Minshew throwing the ball, 37 times, and did he even have 100? I'm not looking at the stats, so I don't think he had 100, even 150 yards, or give or take, 5 yards around there. It just can't happen. Mess of a team there. They need a lot. They need a new coaching staff. Didn't like the DeFilippo hire. Hated that hire. Hate it even more now. I think that guy's a good coach, in terms of practice, working with quarterbacks. He's not going to run an offense, They need to clean house completely clean it, the coaching staff. Chargers getting pretty hot there. That's good to see. They play my Vikings this week, so making things a little more interesting in LA. That actually could be a pretty good game, so looking forward to that one. Big game for the Vikings, so we'll see if they can pull that one out. You think they should, but will they? That's the question. There's the Titans, Raiders. I know they play the Raiders, an ice-cold Raiders versus a red-hot Tennessee Titans. And this actually was interesting for a little bit. They had, I guess it was pretty fortunate. The fumble which eventually the Tannehill got a perfectly formed tackle on, by the way. It resulted in a touchdown. That was kind of fluky. What kind of set. Usually when those things happen, though, in the beginning of the games, no matter who you're playing, that's kind of the changer, and the team wins. In that case, the Raiders, they win that game. That's kind of one of those things, But the Titans they're good. They're a good team. I picked this team to win in the division for a reason. It is kind of tough though, because the defense I thought was a top 5 defense easily most of the year, while the offense was maybe the worst offense in football. Kind of like the Bears. We're talking about top 5 defenses, but then the 2 worst offenses in football. You can kind of compare the teams. But then now. The Titans' offense with Tannehill and the better play calling, the better coaching in general, getting ridiculous. The defense is starting to go downhill. I know that they're missing corners, they're missing some guys. Some guys are beat up, so that's tough. But still, plays that they usually make, they're missing some tackles. Without Josh Jacobs, the Raiders are kind of running the ball a little better than expected on them early. So that was a little concerning. Like, why can't you have the offense and defense at the same time? I'm not super concerned because the defense will get healthier. I like the defense still. But it was an interesting game for a little bit. Back and forth, 21-21, and the Titans just bust away. They bust out there. That Tannehill throw as he's getting hit in his own end zone, wow. Not too many quarterbacks can do that or even will attempt to do that. Perfect ball to his guy, A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was within the top 20 on my big board. No clue how the Titans got him with the 51st overall pick. He is their best receiver. And I guess it was kind of bold that he would be their best receiver this year, having Corey Davis and Humphreys. It wasn't to me, but A.J. Brown's their best receiver. That guy is dangerous, can do it all. It was a safe draft pick in the first round because he can do it all. He can get the separation. He can run after the catch. He's smart. He's total package. Second round, 51st pick, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That guy is a stud, and he's got Tannehill throwing to him, high level. Offensive line, I guess, could be better. It's getting better, though. Especially beginning of the year, looked like one of the worst in football. It's another big-time win. This team is hot. The second the Chiefs game got over, I said it, that is a season changer. I've never seen a team so hyped after a game in this season. That's it. That's it right there. I mean, the improvements on the field too, but that was a season changer. This team is hot as they come. It's fun to see, really. Chiefs and the Patriots. I did pick the Chiefs, so feeling pretty good about that one. I know the talk is that the refs screwed the Patriots out of scores. The refs kind of screwed the Patriots. They did screw them there, they screwed them out of points. I thought the officiating was pretty bad for the Chiefs, though, honestly, mainly early. There was a lot of penalties that I didn't really agree with, a lot of bailouts for the Patriots, and the Chiefs really racked up the yards and penalties in a negative way towards them. So I don't think the officiating was at all one-sided. I don't. But they hurt the Patriots more because they hurt the Chiefs with yards, but they hurt the Patriots with points. And that was kind of the game changer. But I don't really think it was like phantom or one-siding. They're just dumb, But there was some bad calls I thought on the Chiefs early. The kind of the game what nobody's talking about. The game, what kind of decided it? The Patriots got to move the ball better. Obviously, they got a problem there. The blocking's not where we want it to be here. But the game was, when the Chiefs got a 3rd and 19 and Mahomes makes a ridiculous play downfield, and then a couple plays later they got 2nd and 25, and it's a touchdown to Mecole Hardman. Like, those are the big plays in that game that kind of decided it, Like, you just stop them there. I think it's a whole different game. Some of the other things don't even happen. So I thought that was crucial. It's almost like, Mahomes and the Chiefs need kind of that more of a challenge. They need the 2nd and long, the 3rd and long, whatever it is. If it's short distance to go, they don't want that. And that's kind of a concern a little bit, but they have the big play ability. What I like about the Chiefs team is the defense is getting better. Very, very well coached game by Spagnuolo. It was a little concerning, even though it was the right move, concerning that they're switching the whole defense to a 4-3 with some of the pieces they had. But they again, like a guy like Frank Clark, who's getting better as we predicted the season goes on, struggled to start the year. But yeah, Spagnuolo's done a good job. The defense is definitely heading in the right direction. Definitely better this year than last year, no question. It seemed like Rashad Breeland was everywhere in this game, big time plays. Yeah, that Brady interception was pretty rough. Just can't get Sony Michel going. That's pretty tough. I think N'Keal Harry must have got hurt. I heard he was a little hurt, maybe after that touchdown that he should have had. I wish he was more involved. You just got to get the ball in his hands, but he's also that guy you can get that jump ball to, that contested catch to. To me, he's the total package. He can block for you in the run game too. So maybe going to Jacoby Myers a little too much. Said that last week too. Yeah, I mean, it's a good win for the Chiefs. That's a big win. One of these, they're battling for even the 1 seed, but it could be a 2 to 3 seed battle here. In this game, we can come back and see that actually could be the difference. But yeah, the Chiefs defense, the last play of the game where Breeland made that break up, that was kind of the decider there. Great blitz call by Spagnuolo. Great, gutsy blitz call. Loved it where that defense is heading here. So that's a big win for the Chiefs. And then the Steelers and the Cardinals. I think I predicted 20-16 Steelers, so I was pretty much in the ballpark there in terms of how this game would go down. Kyler Murray, I think he played hurt last week, could have been this week too. It's kind of the last 2 weeks been bad for him. Not much going there on offense. It was kind of weird that they had the chance in this game. They were still in this game. Everything was going wrong. It's because the Steelers kind of just don't have enough offensively. Hodges made some big plays, just not a whole bunch. I guess they didn't need to make a whole bunch. Deontay Johnson, I had a comparison of a poor man Stephon Diggs in the draft. I like Deontay Johnson a lot. What did we see in this game? Yeah, we're about along those lines is what we saw in terms of play style. So love to see that. Love to see him playing very well. I guess Steelers got to get some guys healthy back and they can get better on offense. But the defense, The defense. You could say that this is the best defense in football. Great front seven. The secondary is playing out of their mind. Joe Hayden coming out big. That first interception he had, that looked like a young freak athlete interception. And that, it was a fantastic play by Joe Hayden. But everyone's everywhere. TJ Watt playing like a defense MVP. The guy's everywhere. Bud Dupree having a career year on a contract year. Cam Hayward, we know what we expect from Cam Hayward. Devin Bush, perfect piece. Way to trade up for him. Perfect piece there. This defense, you could argue, is the best defense in football. It has played very good. It's got them to this point. Some crucial games coming up for the Steelers. And the last game, I did pick the Rams in this game, so feeling good about that one too, but did not expect the Steelers only score one touchdown, and the Seahawks scoring one touchdown, that only be on the one on defense. So that was a little concerning. Just, what to make of this game. Is Goff getting better as play calling? Louis Riddick tweeted that too, and that's exactly what I was thinking. I think I retweeted that because it's exactly what I was thinking. Like, what is it? A mixture? To me, it's a mixture. A little bit of everything. Goff's playing a little better. Some bad decisions. The playbook and the play calling mainly is looking better. Gurley looking a little better. The offensive line looking a little better. The defense looking a little better. It's not nothing major to me. It's all a little better. Meanwhile, the Seahawks defense wasn't playing, that great. But it's mainly what it is. My takeaway is every week is different. Especially prime time at home helps a lot too. Every week is different. And we're starting to see like the teams we kind of the way we expect them to play, that's kind of where they're playing. That Rams team is a Super Bowl contender, just like last year. But they could actually win 11 games and miss out the playoffs because the way they started. And I think some blame could go around between Goff, the offensive line, and I guess the play calling throughout those weeks. I guess it was, the week against the Bucs. The defense was, I guess, pretty rough early, but playing pretty good now. They had a lot of pressure. The Seahawks, kind of looking at them, a little concerning of a game, though. Even though anything can happen, it's primetime in L.A. Little concerning of a game because, the defense, it's a solid defense, but there's much, much better defenses out there. Like their offense in the playoffs against the good teams, it's going to have to play out of their mind, which they definitely can. They're definitely capable, but not getting a touchdown here or getting, much going here is a little concerning. And what I was talking about on Twitter, what's concerning is the Seahawks have the same exact game plan every single week. It's a solid game plan, but to have it every single week is pretty bad, and you become predictable. And what's my number one rule about an offense, being good offense, is being unpredictable. Seahawks still have a very good offense, but they're becoming predictable. The game plan is run heavy, stay in the game, run the clock, and then explode and pass. If you're up, even better, because you can run more, run the clock. You need to mix some big shots in there. You need to mix big shots early. You have Russell Wilson. You have the play action ability. Teams are expecting you to run. Maybe they're setting it all up for the playoffs, so they actually do that. That's very possible. We've seen it last year, too. They were better than the Cowboys in week one in the wild card round of the playoffs last year. I picked the Cowboys for that exact reason. Because the Seahawks became predictable. I didn't trust them to make the big plays. Exactly what happened. So I'm worried about the Seahawks doing it again. I think they're better this year than they were last year, though. I do think they're better. But you cannot become predictable, and that's kind of what they're doing here. Need more big shots. You have Russell Wilson. They kind of insist on the run too much. I love running to open up the pass. I love it, especially when you have the players to do it. They have the players to do it. I love it. So don't get me wrong here. But to do it every single week and not mix things in there and mix some things in each week, it's a little concerning. But they could be setting it all up. And it's pretty much when you're predicting the Seahawks in the playoffs, what your prediction is, good or bad, it's a shot in the dark. It's literally a shot in the dark because you don't know what they got planned for us. You can make the assumption that it's going to be the same game plan. That's kind of what it was last year. But if they continue to be predictable, I know it's only one loss. I'm not trying to overreact from one loss. I'm just kind of talking in terms of down the stretch of playoffs. They got to change it up a little bit. If they stay predictable, they ain't going to go far in the playoffs because they don't have an elite defense. They got a playmaking defense. I like Clowney. I like Bobby Wagner, obviously. DBs are, they're kind of hit or miss. They make plays, but then they kind of can get beat too. And they've been kind of fortunate in second halves this year with some kind of weird plays and fluky plays that I don't know if they keep up. But it's a very good team. You got maybe the best player in football. You have a good running back. Unfortunately, Penny might be hurt. So it's a shot in the dark what we're going to get from the Seahawks when they play, more good teams like this last week, or throughout the year. Even last week against the Vikings, everything was going against the Vikings. The Seahawks really should have put that game away a lot earlier, but they kind of let them hang on. So what's going to happen if they play these teams again in the playoffs? Good game for the Rams. Let's see if they can keep rolling. Let's see if they can stay consistent. I saw a change in that Cardinals game last week. People said, well, they played the Cardinals, but I saw within the game specifics that were changed. That's kind of why I picked the Seahawks here. The Rams over the Seahawks here. Let's see if that continues here. Big games coming up for them. That's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Back every single week with this, along with our other predictions, recap, power ranks, whatever it is. We got you covered, even in the offseason. So please subscribe. Trying to get to 40K subscribers. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching this video. Goodbye.